Howdy folks, here we are prepping for the new hurricane season, and one of the things that I've always discussed is not having electricity in the house for an extended period of time. And since everything is electric here, I have to come up with different ways of cooking. We've talked about the propane stoves, and we've talked about wood burning stoves. I'd like to show you a new technique of cooking. It takes a little bit longer, but it's very effective. It doesn't use any wood, or it doesn't use any propane, and you can save that for other times when you need them. This is solar cooking. First, I'm going to introduce you to the jar cooking. Essentially what you do is you take a wide mouth jar and you put a little bit of tape over one surface, and then you spray the whole thing black. And after it dries, you take off the tape and you have a little window. Essentially what you do is you put the food in there, you close it up, and then you set up some kind of reflector. And if it's windy, you may want to put this inside of a baking bag, like the kind that they use for baking a turkey, for example. So you put it inside of a bag and you set it in the middle of the reflector, and within a short period of time, actually not a short period of time, but within a certain time period, depending on what you're cooking, this will be hot enough that you have to wear gloves, and you should be wearing, whenever you're out in the sun, some sunglasses. Well, anyway, you open it up and you have yourself a meal. Here's a small jar and this large jar. I'll show you how that works later on. The other one is I made out of downspouts, two pieces that I had, I made a solar oven. And what you do is, this one I put a little temperature gauge over here, and I have to finish this. I got to put a knob, and then you have a tray where you put the food. And here's another thing that you can use, something, a black metal surface or a cast iron black surface, and preferably with a lid. You put your food in here, put it out in the sun in the middle of a reflector, and you got yourself some food later on. Since these don't have a lid, I'm going to put them inside of one of those baking bags, tie it up, and that will retain the heat inside. And then the whole thing is put in the middle of a reflector. So I'll show you how this works in a little bit, but it's an alternate means of cooking. So I put the jar facing the sun with the reflector facing the sun. It's a little windy, but let's see how this works out. I put it inside the bag to keep the wind off the jar and retain the heat. So let's see how this works out. We'll check back in an hour and a half. Okay, it's been now a few hours. I went out and ran some errands and I came back. Right now it's 1 o'clock. Almost 1 o'clock. So it's been going for about 9:15, 3 3/4 hours. And let's see what we have here. That thing in the back is a salad bowl that I covered with reflective tape so that it serves somewhat like a parabolic dish, reflecting the heat towards the back of the jar. I'm not sure if that will work, but it seems to be working. The back of the jar is much hotter than the front. That thermal glove was too bulky to do this. So I'm going to use a piece of paper. See what the rice looks like. And finally, let's add some sweet peas and carrots. Let's see what happens now. Looks good. And it tastes good. So, my conclusion is, in an emergency situation, this would provide you with rice for your family. It may not be like out of a rice cooker, but believe me, close enough. And once you add some other things to it, you'll have yourself a full meal. So there's our snack for this afternoon. Here's the reflector that I made. It's still a work in progress, but I'm testing how it works. Essentially, you just put it in front, and the way you aim it is, if you see any shadow on either side, you just turn it until that shadow disappears. And then in the back, there should be reflecting on the tube itself, the oven itself. Okay, and that's how this thing is aimed. You have to move it either forward or backward until you get this kind of shine on the back, that reflection. That means that that's being heated from the back also. Alright, so it's been about 2.5 hours since we put our solar cooker invention. Now I'm going to take it out. First I'm going to remove the plexiglass or glass if that's how you're doing it. But I must wear gloves to touch the oven itself. It's very hot. Another thing you should wear is your sunglasses, because when you walk in front of the reflector, you'll get flashes from the sun and it may hurt your eyes. The temperature is 225 degrees. Show you the temperature. Okay, now we'll go inside and see what it looks like and taste. The proof is in the pudding, so then we'll taste it. Okay. Alright, now for the proof is in the pudding test. You're going to take one of these. They're nice and moist. They're hot. And here's some ham and onions and carrots. I'm going to take some of this so we can try it, especially the carrots, since they take a long time to cook. And I love onions. It smells delicious. And now the potatoes and onions with some seasoning that Jerry made. They smell good too. All right, here it goes. Potatoes. Perfect. Good flavor, nice and soft. The carrot, it looks like it was soft when I put my fork in it. Buttery flavor. Let's see the onions. The onions look real good. They smell good. Perfect. Sausage. As if I would have made them in the oven over here. So, with time, you can actually prepare a solar cooker yourself. I'm going to finish that one and I'll show you the end product. It's not going to be pretty because it's a working, prototype. But it's actually a combination of the tube kind of a solar cookie and the box reflector type of a solar. So I'm combining two different technologies into one, and it seems to be working perfect. 225 degrees seems to be a good temperature to cook. You won't overcook it, and at the same time you'll have enough heat to cook whatever you put in there. This smells awesome, and the hot dogs look like they've been baked, and the beans look good, and the potatoes are good, but we'll do a taste test, of course. Let me show you what it looks like from up close. The potatoes, hot dogs, and baked beans. I'm going to stir it a little bit, and then I'll serve myself. All right. Put some wieners with baked beans. It's incredibly delicious. Thumbs up for sure. The potatoes, I did put them back in the oven. They needed a little bit longer cooking. Towards the center, they weren't fully cooked, but they had good flavor, and that's what counts. So I'm gonna bake them a little bit longer, and then we'll try that out. But this is delicious. Okay, so we have the potatoes going on longer. I understand now that any kind of root vegetable you should start cooking first before you add the other things. So the hot dogs and the baked beans, of course, take much less time, and I should have started cooking the potatoes first. Now I put it back in the oven, and I just took it out. It was cooking at 200 degrees. So let's take the tray out. This is still very hot. They smell great. And now let's do the taste test. I'm gonna stir it up a little bit. I don't want to burn my hand. So I'm just going to hold this tray over like that. And here we go. I'm going to pick an onion and a piece of potato. Ouch, hot. And they're cooked. So whenever you're cooking any kind of sweet potato, or carrots, just make sure that you start cooking them first before you add the other things that you're going to cook with them. That's it. So we have a solar oven. Now it's a matter of finishing it up. I'm going to put a knob over here and make sure that everything seals correctly so you get the maximum temperature inside. And that's about it.